This video will contain massive spoilers for your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, so if you're not caught up on the show as of this video, be sure to get caught up and then come back and watch this. Spoilers ahead. Hey guys, Jonathan here, and wow, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is off to a great start. I really wasn't sure what tone the show would be going for, but I love it. It's a lot of fun. It's just great how many new characters we've gotten, and when I say new characters, I mean new characters. Some are making their on-screen debut in this show for the very first time. Some are made up for this show. It's really exciting. So with that being said, we'll be going week by week through every episode that releases and making custom Lego figures from the show. Since it appears we aren't getting any Lego sets or figures based off of it, we'll be like Thanos and fine, we'll do it ourselves. So, sit back and relax, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and let's start building the characters from your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Alright, we'll start things off with Peter Parker and Aunt May, as well we should. For Peter Parker, I used just this regular brown hair. It's come in tons and tons of places. The head comes from Egon from Ghostbusters, which is a relatively rare part now, but it is the best part for those round glasses. Now, the torso is pretty interesting because, of course, in the show, it's not quite these colors or design, but this is the closest that I was able to find in my collection, so if you have a better recommendation, let me know down in the comments. That being said, it's just a very, very common torso from Lego City. It's come in tons and tons of sets. Then, of course, gray legs finish out the figure, and for Aunt May, we actually used the head and flipped around torso from Yaz from Jurassic World, with some long brown hair that's come in tons of places, and some light blue legs for jeans that have also come in, you guessed it, tons of places. Now, seeing Doctor Strange literally right off the bat in this episode was super cool, and to see that Peter doesn't even know who he is kind of helps set up this version of the universe pretty well, and I'm really interested to see how it expands and grows. That being said, he's fighting a symbiote-looking monster, which we don't really know much about, and to be completely honest with you, I don't love the design of the symbiote that I came up with here. I just don't think it's among my strongest ever, and that's why I didn't even include it in the thumbnail, but for completion's sake, went ahead and used a Venom head with one of the backpacks from the Outriders just to add some bulk to the back, with the flipped around torso from Knight Rider, black arms, black hands, the legs from, oh gosh, what is the name of that beast from the CMF? I'm sure someone in the comments will know. Then standing on 1x1 pieces to make it a little taller. Then for Doctor Strange, I used the Multiverse of Madness legs, torso, cape, and head, because I do think that that looks the most like what we saw here, but of course with yellow hands for his yellow gloves, and the Infinity War style hair for Strange that gives you the white on the sides that definitely matches best what we see in the first episode. Here we've got Nico, and when I saw her design for the first time, I'm like, oh my gosh, how are we going to make this with the blue hair and the blue lipstick? But thankfully, I dug around through my entire collection and found some really great parts to use. The Moradi from Star Wars, from the Galaxy's Edge set, has this black hair with the blue dyed ends, which literally works perfect for this. And then the Elf Bard from D&D works perfectly to get the blue lipstick, so that works great. Then, of course, you'll use the torso from MJ from Spider-Man, although I think it's been used in other places, with black legs and then, of course, matching hands to finish off Nico's design. Now here we have the main attraction, which of course is Spider-Man, and I love the way that this turned out for the homemade suit from this universe. Now the legs come from the soccer players that have come in several different sets, and when they do come in sets you kind of get to army build them because they're like giant soccer sets, but of course I used black hips there to make them look a little more accurate to the show. The torso is flipped around, but it's just a regular city torso. It's been in tons of places. We've got red arms. I used the handcuff trick where you take a pair of handcuffs and cut the chain off, then put the handcuffs back on for his web shooters. Of course, you'll see the backpack here is a black parachute backpack that comes from the CMF Spy. Then, of course, when we flip it around, I used black gloves and the head from the Mighty Micro's Scarlet Spider for the final look. Now, of course, you could use the Scarlet Spider head from the official figure, but I know how rare that is, and there aren't a ton of them out there, and when they are, they're very expensive. So the Mighty Micros version is a little cheaper to find, and hopefully, if you don't already have it, it won't cost you too much to hunt one down. All right, next we've got Harry Osborn. This was a lot of fun to put together. Of course, he's got that green suit, so I used dark green legs with this torso, which I got from the Lighthouse set, but apparently it's been in a lot of places once I researched it, so that's really good. Hopefully it won't cost you too much. The head is actually interesting because it's been used on 3 different figures, but all from like army builder type sets and things of that. So it was in the D&D set, the giant set. It was also in the soccer set that I mentioned earlier, and it was also in a Harry Potter set that had a bunch of characters in it too. So not a super uncommon head in the fact that it's come in a lot of places that were army builders, so hopefully you will be able to track one down. And then the hair here comes from Abby Yates from the 2016 Ghostbusters, although that's been used in other places as well. Okay, folks, up next we've got Pearl and Lonnie, both really interesting characters to make and build for this. So for Pearl, I really liked using this skirt piece that came from the old Clone Troopers back in like 2008, 2009, because I think that really helps add a lot of layer to her design here. But of course, underneath, we've just kind of got those bluish legs with the yellow torso and arms, which surprisingly is not as common as you might think. Then, of course, the head comes from the Pharrell set with all those different heads and all that. Then the hands match with black hair. The head for Lonnie also comes from the Pharrell set, crazy enough. Then, of course, I used this torso from Lego City. It's come in some other places like a GWP at one point with gray legs, matching hands, and the hair from Mordo from the Sanctum Sanctorum. Now, Mordo's hair is longer than Lonnie's in the show, but I do think that the dreadlocks look works really well for the cornrows, so I do think it's our best option, although the styles don't quite match in terms of length. And finally, to round out episode 1, we've got Norman Osborn. And I really love the design in the show where they went with the character, and it seems like they're really building him up to be pretty menacing, which of course I love as well. Now, for this, I used the legs and torso from Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, with the head from Rhodey from Iron Man and the Avengers and all that, with some swept back brown hair to finish the look, which I think actually translates really well from the screen into Lego. Okay, so now that brings us into episode 2, where we've got Peter's internship friends, and this was really interesting. Pretty crazy. We've got Asha from Wakanda, who is actually from the comics, hasn't appeared on anything on screen in Marvel yet, so this is her on-screen debut, which is pretty cool. Then, of course, we've got Amadeus Cho, and I love what they did with the character so far here. I don't know if we'll get to see him Hulk out or not, but the show did just get confirmed for 3 seasons, so maybe over the course of the show. Anyways, the torso comes from Professor Frink from The Simpsons, of course. The legs come from Dr. Wu from Jurassic World, and speaking of Jurassic World, the hands, head, and hair all come from Kenji from Jurassic World as well. I've skipped over Asha over here because I was getting so excited about comic book lore. Used the same hair for Mordo that we just mentioned before. Then, of course, the head comes from Shuri from Infinity War. The torso and legs come from Claire Deering from Jurassic World with the matching hands. Then, of course, as we come over here to Jean, I just kind of threw something together here. I used the long swept brown hair as well as the Princess Leia head. Then, of course, this is a Jurassic World torso with matching hands and blue legs to finish the look. Alright, so up next we have Dr. Whitman and Dr. Carla Connors. Carla Connors, of course, being a gender-swapped Kurt Connors for this universe. Who knows if we'll see her become the Lizard later in the show. That would be crazy. And then, Dr. Whitman is actually, in the comics, the Wizard who's a frequent Fantastic Four villain. So, kind of interesting here that they're setting up a lot with these Oscorp characters. Anyways, for Dr. Whitman, I used the hair and head from the character Gunnar Eversol from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Then he does have his own lab coat in the show, but not only was I running out of lab coat pieces, but I don't really have any that are white lab coats with like green underneath. So the next best option I used was this torso from Mole Man from The Simpsons, which I thought was kind of funny, right? Mole Man from The Simpsons, Mole Man, the Fantastic Four villain the Wizard. See what I did there? Then I put matching hands, and since he appears a little shorter than everybody else, I used mid-sized legs. For Carla Connors, the legs come from Dr. Frink, of course, from The Simpsons. Then this torso is just a generic Doctor torso, I believe, from Jurassic World, if I'm not mistaken. Got a blue glove on one hand, as we see in the show. The head comes from MJ from Spider-Man, and of course, to finish it all off, we've got a little hairpiece there that has the tie and all of that good stuff. And finally, we have Butane, who is really interesting because he's a very obscure Marvel Comics character, and the version that we got in this is definitely more like a grounded New York City version than the comics. He's much more cosmically charged in the comics. But that being said, really cool to see him make his debut here. And for this character, I went ahead and used dark gray legs and dark gray arms with the handcuff trick mentioned earlier, with black hands, a torso from the foot soldiers from the TMNT line, and of course a welder's mask to finish the look. So that will bring us to the end of episodes 1 and 2 and all the new characters we got. So let's wrap up this video and call it a day. Alright guys, let me know what you thought of these customs and what you thought of the first 2 episodes of this show. I absolutely cannot wait to see where this series goes, and we know we're getting at least 3 seasons of this show, so they clearly have big plans, and I can't wait to watch them all unfold. Be sure to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any future installments, and I'll see you guys on the next video.